Jewel, welcome.
Thank you.
So, when we talk about reentry, one of the, we talk a lot about the social and the psychological and the financial challenges to reentry, and recidivism is a thing that preoccupies a lot of that attention. There's a mounting level of evidence that says that college education programs in prisons drastically reduces recidivism. And one of the programs that has most been highly acclaimed is the Bard Prison Initiative. The incarcerated students there have a 4% rate of recidivism instead of a general 60% for the general population. Lynn, that program is actually the basis of a new documentary for you, and Jules, you actually were a participant in the program. Lynn, I wanted to direct the first question at you. What drew you to this particular program?
Well, I had the wonderful opportunity. My colleague and partner, producer Sarah Botstein, and I had the chance to teach one class in the program in 2012. We were asked to guest teach a class. We went up to a maximum security prison in upstate New York and went into the classroom with the students in the program and had a conversation about our film about prohibition. And we had an extraordinarily interesting and profound and sophisticated conversation with those students. And as we walked out, we said, this is really remarkable and not many people know about what's happening here. Someone should make a film about it. It took quite a while. I had the chance to teach in the program for half a semester the next year, and we were able to convince the Department of Corrections in New York and Max Kenner, who started the program and runs it, to let us have access over 4 years to film the students currently and formerly incarcerated as they made their way through the program to get degrees. We were interested in 2 basic questions: what is prison for, and who in America has access to education. So it's been really a 6-year project for us.
Jewel, you were a participant in the program. Talk to me a little bit about your experience and why you decided to enroll.
Well, it was the hardest thing I ever done. I decided to enroll because I knew what was at stake in my life, and I felt that prison wasn't providing me with the ways to engage myself and to transform myself and develop into a new individual. I wanted to be new. I wanted to transform, but prison didn't provide me with those tools. So when I heard of Bard Prison Initiative, I went all out to get to the facility, because mind you, it's not in every facility, unfortunately. So I really went to my guidance counselor and told her, I need a transfer, I need to go to Bard.
One of the gentlemen in the video said that it was the hardest thing that he'd ever done. Describe to me, what were the classes like? What did you love about it? What was challenging to you?
So the challenge was being able to engage this really dense material. We dealt with Kierkegaard, Karl Marx, Friedrich Nietzsche, and by the first 2 weeks of the class, you have that headache like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm reading. But when you get to, the 9th week or the 10th week, you're an expert in Friedrich Nietzsche. So I think one of the things that enlivened me was to be able to sit in the classroom with my peers and exchange ideas without any type of prejudice or any type of judgment, that we all knew we were here to engage this literary material and to explore various ideas without reproach or contradiction, but a lot of debate.
I think the thing that stuck the most with me from seeing the video and listening to your stories is it's not just that you're learning, advanced mathematics or dealing with deep textual literature. It's the man in the video that said he felt cheated out of his early education. It's the other guy that said that, they taught him how smart he already was, not how to be smart, but how to engage with his own intelligence. And it felt a lot like being free of people's low expectations of you. Is that something that registered with you while you were there?
Yes. What my story is, when I was in high school, I used to read the first chapter of a book, the middle chapter of a book, and the end chapter of the book, and I would be able to get through the class without any problem. But once I got to Bard, I had to read. I had to read with a dictionary next to me so that I could understand what I was reading. And to be able to engage on that level has made me the person I am today, to whereas I feel like there are so many subjects, diverse interests, but I can engage them all.
Lynn, you've worked on a bunch of different documentaries. We actually screened your collaboration with Ken Burns at this festival last year on Vietnam. What made this feel different? What did you take away from these men and these people that you experienced?
Wow. Well, I should also say that we did focus as well on a group of women who were in the program in So there's a major through line of group of incarcerated women, but the clip we showed was for men. For Sarah Botstein and myself and our producer Mariah Duran and our entire team, it was such a privilege to try to tell this story or to find a way to bring cameras into these facilities and get to know these extraordinary people and understand what their lives were like and what the struggles they were going through in this incredibly rigorous program. We learned something every day, and we just wanted to make the best film we could to honor the gift they gave us of letting us sort of eavesdrop on their world and try to shine a light on this extraordinarily complicated situation, which is that most people incarcerated don't have access to programs like this. So what's at stake? One of the things we filmed was orientation, where Max Kenner, the director of the program, orients the new students, and he sort of says, something is at stake now for you that wasn't at stake before. You know, you have a lot to lose. We all have a lot to lose if we don't make this a success for yourself and for everybody who's in it. So we feel the same way. There's a lot at stake with our film that we really want to get it right, just out of gratitude.
One of the big questions that you offered in talking about why you were drawn to this program is, what is prison for? You talked a little bit just now about access to education and the fact that it's obviously not equal, but did you get the answer to your own question?
Well, I think we don't have enough time to really delve deeply into it, but punishment, I mean, we hope our film raises those questions for audiences to really think about, and I think I'd rather defer to Jewel to some degree, but the idea that prison is solely a vehicle for punishment, whether there should even be prison, and what is it accomplishing, these are deep, deep questions. But I think the film is also saying, meanwhile, we have prisons. Whether we think we should or not, what's happening inside them, and what could be happening, so that while we figure out whether we should have prisons or not, or what we're doing, we make sure that the time that people have to spend there is not.
And if I may, I just want to acknowledge that there are so many people who are in New York State prisons just like me, looking for the opportunity to reconcile with their wrongs, you know, looking for the opportunity to transform their lives. But there aren't many programs that allows us to do that. And it becomes a bit of a despairing situation, because you realize, like, here I am in prison and want to change, and I can't. I'm being reinforced to do wrong by the culture that's here without any avenue to take a more constructive approach to my self-development. So it's not, I'm not the only individual who I witnessed into this program and felt, oh, wow, this is just what I was looking for.
How did it change your experience post-release?
It's amazing that the skills and the attitudes I learned at Bard are so useful to me now in the professional world. You know, being able to take on the challenge of having this hard text that I have to devote 3 hours without looking at TV to read is the same type of attitude and drive that I bring to, you know, my work in the professional realm.
Before we take it to audience questions, I wanted to ask you both one last question. We talked a lot today about how people interact with the carceral system. What are some misconceptions that you have witnessed, and how are you kind of working your way through them? You know, you just talked about not being the only one that wants to achieve these kind of programs. Lynn, I'm interested to bring you in and see if there are things that you saw that you were shocked by.
I was shocked and stunned every day, and just being inside maximum security prison. I wasn't there every day, but we spent many, many, many days in and out. There's, people talk a lot about alienation. So, if you're ignorant, which I admit I was, I've never having been inside prisons before we got involved with the project, you think you're going to be maybe walking into a place where there's a lot of violence and kind of chaos. But I think what you sense is the loneliness and alienation to some degree of just people being isolated from their families, from the world, and there's something very, very heavy about spending time there. You can't really describe it except just actually be able to go and see. But I could go on and on. I just think one of the things the film can do is bring people who haven't had the chance to go, which I'm sad to say is probably most people. If you don't have a relative or family member or someone you know, for most Americans, they can just think that's happening somewhere else. It doesn't involve me. It doesn't affect me. Not my problem. And I think we all have an obligation to try to educate ourselves about what's actually going on inside these facilities.
I did some time in there, so I have a lot of stories.
Yeah.
But I would say that one of the things that really stuck with me is seeing people go home and come right back. And I was in a position of saying, if I only had that chance once, I would never come back. But then when I sat and talked with the brothers, of course, because I was in an all-male facility, I'm pretty sure it would be the same in a women's facility, the brothers conveyed the idea that they weren't prepared to go home. And that was just like so shocking to me, that not only was I in prison looking for a way to transform myself, but here you have people being released and coming back saying, yo, I wasn't ready. You know, so that's just really shocking to me, and I think that is something that also lends credit to the need for a more rehabilitative and a less punitive approach to our carceral system.
I want to take a question from the audience right here. To my
Thank you guys very much, and Joel, thank you for telling your story, and I hope that you are an inspiration to many other people, both who have been in prison and who hopefully never will go to prison. I'm just wondering when and how we can see the film.
Oh, to see the film? Yeah. Yes, it will be on PBS in 2019. We're not exactly sure when. We're going to find that out soon, and we're hoping to have a very robust outreach and engagement campaign to bring it around the country, both before the broadcast and after, and to organize screenings with alums and interested parties, stakeholders, as they say, and to also, you know, make it available as widely as possible.
Awesome. We have one more question in the back.
What do you think it would take to extend this program universally in prisons? What are the challenges of doing that?
I would say it's not really a big challenge. It's really easy. It's relatively easy. I mean, you know, I don't want to speak loosely because anything that's worth something is hard, but it just takes, you know, the will. And unfortunately, we don't have the will to spread these programs. It's not about finances. It's not about the correctional environment itself, because people are hungry for these programs. But we have to have the will. We have to understand that this is helpful for society and our democracy. So until we get there, I mean, we live in a partisan time, but once we get there, I don't think it'll be too much of a challenge.
And I mean, we do feel we haven't shown the film much. Honestly, this is really the first public screening where anyone outside of our little world of just people helping us make the film have seen it. But the reaction, just, you know, when people see this film and see what's possible and how it's not so hard to, there's a hunger for it, there's an interest in it. It is a question of sort of priorities and addressing the central question of what prison is for as well.
And it works.
And it's so effective, right?
It works. People, you know, people from BPI are home now in hospitals doing constructive work, doing social justice work, are doing constructive, positive things in society. And it's not just BPI, I would say. It's also people who have received college educations inside of a correctional environment. They are released and they become more civic beings, as one person said. Yeah. In the film. And I mean,
one of the things we talk about in the film is the politics that in 1994, as part of the Clinton crime bill, Pell Grants were taken away from anyone who was incarcerated. So there had been college programs in almost every state and every prison, and almost overnight just vanished. And so there is some movement towards bringing that money, you know. It's available. Thank you. There is a bill. Thank you, Vivian. Yeah. I was about to try to explain. Right. There is a bill to get Pell Grants back, and that's a huge step. That would be a huge step. And on state, there's lots of things happening on many state levels as well.
Joel, Lynn, thank you guys so much for being with us.
Thank you.